do you have a segue to that, or do I need to?
Well, another approach you might want to take in terms of getting some free media coverage is to encourage the media to actually come out and cover an event or cover a topic. And again, the real estate in a newspaper or the time that's on a news broadcast is pretty competitive to get into. It's hard. It's a hard sell sometimes, but it's definitely worth the effort. And one of the ways that you can get their attention is if you offer a press release around a particular event or a particular issue. And what this does is it allows you to basically pitch your idea for the story to a reporter, and you're inviting them to come and then do a story on that particular topic. Whether it's an event that you're having, whether it's coverage of a particular issue, or whatever. And your view may be that you want to get your particular opinion across, but you also have to think about what their perspective is and what they're looking for, and they're looking for a good story. So basically you want to write your press release as if it's a good story. And there's a format to a press release, and you need to respect the format. If you do it outside of the format, it will confuse people. But in terms of the body of the document, what you're doing is basically writing a story like you would want it to appear in the newspaper. So you have to respect what they try and do with the newspaper. So for one thing, unlike how you were taught in school, don't leave the conclusion to the very end. Put the conclusion right up at the front. You don't want to hide what the article is about. You want it to be very clear right up front. You want to have a local hook if you can. So instead of saying, starting with, we're having a fundraiser to raise funds in support of children who don't have coats to walk to school and are cold, say, 10% of Lansing area children are cold on their way to school every day, or don't have adequate coats, or arrive at school cold, or arrive at school hungry, whatever the issue is that you're trying to get, so that people can understand what the impact on their community is and how it is affecting actual people in their community. And then through the telling of your story, tie it back to your fundraiser and what you're trying to do, or the mission of your organization, or the what you're trying to do around influencing a particular bill or something like that.
Well, so what makes a good story? I mean, when you say that's the perspective that they're looking for, what are the components of a good story?
Well, I think we all know a good story when we see one, in that it has, a little bit of drama and a little bit of excitement. It is maybe, people tend to identify more strongly with an individual than they do with a large group of people. So if there is an individual who is you, or is somebody that is comfortable sharing their story publicly, that can be a powerful way to build empathy within the community and to have a good response. But then you want to tie it back to the larger issue. So you sort of start with the micro and then go to the macro in terms of, this is one person's story, but this story affects a lot of people. And you want to cover the basic journalistic things of who, what, where, when, and why. Whatever that other one is. But, you're in a newspaper that has a lot of good resources. They will be intrigued by what you're writing, and they may decide that it's worth exploring whether or not there's a story there for them to write. And but then they will do their their own research and their own reporting, and they'll want to interview anybody involved in it. But in small newspapers where they have very little resources, sometimes they just reprint your press release as is.
Okay.
So write it the way you want it to sound.
So the more work you can do for the reporter
Exactly.
to help them out increases the likelihood that there might be some more attention paid to it.
Exactly. If you can include quotes from local people, so if there's somebody who's been impacted by or would be impacted by one of the bills that may be introduced in the next couple of months, who feels comfortable speaking out about it, then you could include a quote from that person. Or if you have somebody who is just an expert in a particular field, a doctor, a clergyman, somebody who is a sociologist who studies what the impact of these things are. If you can include a quote, especially if they're local, they like to quote local people in the newspaper. So,
Okay.
So that can work very well for you.
Okay.
Follow the submission guidelines. There are always submission guidelines for everything at newspapers and TV stations and things like that. But if this is your one chance to make a big splash about something, if this is your do or die opportunity and you really want it to get some attention, follow the directions, but also hand deliver the release to the station or to the newspaper. Maybe even hand deliver it with something. And I don't know what it would be in the case of the upcoming bills, but
like a fact sheet or sticker or pen?
Yeah, exactly. I once worked on a new color a printing press opening, and we delivered. I can't remember exactly what we did, but a big thing was that it was increased color capabilities, and so when we delivered our press releases to local television stations and things like that to cover it, we delivered it with colored balloons or something like that. Something that they would notice that would make it stand out from the crowd. So don't do that all the time, because that's expensive and time consuming and ultimately exhausting. But occasionally that can be really powerful.
Okay.
Also, again, think about the timing of how you're going to do this. Think about what you want out of this. If this is a complicated story and you want a reporter to actually spend time and energy looking into the issue, you don't want to do it the day before you want the coverage to appear in the paper, because that's going to take them some legwork. They're going to need to dig into the issue and things like that. So sometimes you want to do the press release quite a while before the event happens. And sometimes you're doing a press release because you're having a training session on a Saturday and you just want a little blurb in the paper or something like that. And in that case, you need to do it early enough to get it into the paper, but you don't have to do it. There's no point in doing it really early. So.
Right. So it's just proportionate to the amount of work that would need to go into what you want in the end.
Exactly.
Okay.
There are a lot of opportunities with all these different types of media to do everything electronically. Mm-hmm. And I am personally a big fan of electronic communication. But it does decrease your opportunity to be seen. You're in there in the morass of other things. If the only way you release your press release is through one of the many online press release services, then you're going to just be one of 1,000 or more out there. So it's not that they're bad to do, but you also want to stand out from the crowd a little bit. And that's where a phone call to somebody who might be sympathetic, or relationship building with people at the station or the newspaper really can help.
Makes sense.
And then the last thing I think about the press releases that I have is you need to make sure that whoever your press contact is, because press releases do require that there be a contact, that they be actually available to answer media calls, because if they're not, they will very quickly lose interest and move on to something else. So if they're on vacation or napping all afternoon or something like that, you may miss your golden opportunity to get in front of the news. So.
All right, again, making it easy.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So, and these are some samples. All right. Great.
One other thing you might want to consider, I've spoken mostly about newspapers and how to get published in there, but there are editorial opportunities or opportunities for op-ed presentations on a lot of the local news and radio stations. And I don't actually have Comcast here in Lansing, but when I did have Comcast in Detroit, they had Comcast Spotlight, where they would invite or community members, community leaders usually, to come in and state their opinion, and it was very clearly said that it was their opinion. And so, you know, get to know your community and where the opportunities are to get some of that very precious free media resources.
Those are like the cable channels, the
cable
local
channel,
ones,
right. Exactly.
where individuals may have a show and have guests.
Well, yeah, I mean, Comcast did. They just, you know, give 3 minutes to occasionally to a community member to state their views.
So it didn't have to be a regular show, because I've seen some of those, especially in Lansing.
Yeah. I don't have Comcast, so I don't know what's going on in Lansing on Comcast, but yeah, there are some of those things too.
Okay.
But you know, look at what will be a good fit for your message,
right,
and where you might be able to make the most impact. Not all venues are going to be the most appropriate for your message, probably, and who you're trying to reach and who you're trying to influence.
All right, great, thank you.
You're very welcome.